Good afternoon. We'll call the meeting to order. We respectfully acknowledge that the Township of Algonquin Highlands is located on Treaty 20 Mississauga territory and in the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa Nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. We also acknowledge a historical shared presence of other Indigenous nations throughout the area, and we recognize these original inhabitants as the stewards of its lands and waters since time immemorial. The following meeting of the Committee of Adjustment is a public meeting to consider development proposals that don't comply with the provisions of the Township's zoning bylaw. My name is Liz Danielson, and I'm the chair of the committee. I'd like to introduce the members of the committee that are here today. Sabrina Richards, Councillor for Ward 2. Christine Sharp, public member. Fergus McLaren, public member. We also have with us Sean O'Callaghan, who's our planner, and Greg Moore, who's our Chief Building Official. Mr. O'Callaghan will provide a brief overview of each application, after which the applicant or their agent will have an opportunity to address the committee. Following this, anyone who wishes to speak to the application, either in support or against, will be given an opportunity to do so. The committee will then discuss the proposal and given the opportunity to ask questions of both the planner and the applicant. The committee will then vote to grant, refuse, or defer the proposal. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof today? Hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes of March 28th? Member McLaren, Member Sharp.
Moved by Fergus McLaren, seconded by Christine Sharp. Be resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby approves as circulated the meeting minutes of March 28th, 2025.
All in favor? That's carried. So we'll move into new business, and the first application, or the only application for today, is for a minor variance on 1025 Looking Glass Lane in Stanhope.
This property is located at 1025 Looking Glass Lane. The lands are zoned Shoreline Residential 2 and Environmental Protection and designated waterfront under the official plan. The property is approximately 0.7 acres in area with 56 meters of frontage on the Canisius River. Surrounding uses are generally shoreline residential, and the lands are currently developed with a dwelling, 3 sheds, a shipping container, carport, and a dock. During the site visit by staff, a shipping container with an attached carport were found to have been recently constructed without a building permit. Staff have included a recommended condition to require those structures be removed. The applicants are proposing to demolish the existing 586.25 square foot one-story dwelling and construct a new 2,052 square foot two-story dwelling on the same general footprint. The existing dwelling is currently set back 15.5 meters from the high water mark, and the proposed dwelling will be located in the same footprint and expand towards the rear lot line. Existing site infrastructure, including accessory structures, the driveway, septic system, along with limited lot depth, do restrict the available building location for the proposed dwelling that would comply with the zoning bylaw requirements. The applicant is seeking the following relief. That's one, from section 4.14.94 of the zoning bylaw to increase the maximum gross floor area permitted from 40% to 250% for the purpose of constructing a 2,052 square foot two-story dwelling, as well as from section 4.14.94 of the zoning bylaw to increase the maximum height permitted from 40% to 80% for the purpose of constructing the same dwelling. Notice of the application was posted on the property, posted on the township website, and circulated to property owners within 60 meters of the subject lands, as well as to the County of Haliburton and to the Halls Hawk Lake Property Owners Association. The county did comment. They have no concerns with the proposed development. However, note that the applicant should be advised that any on-site works occurring within 20 meters of the shoreline fall within the jurisdiction of the county shoreline preservation bylaw, and consultation with the county shoreline bylaw officer should be undertaken. Staff at this time are recommending deferral of the application as the septic system was identified as being located on the right-of-way to the rear of the property. So staff are recommending deferral pending a resolution of the encroachment of the septic system to the satisfaction of the township.
Are there any questions for Mr. O'Callaghan? Hang on just a sec. From the committee? Fergus?
The right of way has been in existence for some time. The septic system, I understand, was constructed with permit in 2018, I believe it was. However, we've looked at it and it looks like not all the necessary information was provided at that time, so the site plan didn't identify the right of way when we approved the septic system, is my understanding.
Any other questions from the committee? So I understand the applicants are here. If you want to come forward, we'll need you to sit at the table here where the microphone is.
Good afternoon.
Anything you'd like to say about your application?
I just had a question about, I guess, the new findings, which is more so the septic being on the right of way. I guess I just need a better understanding of how that comes to be, that the septic ended up being on that shoreline or the road allowance property. And I guess what the proposed solutions would be at this point, knowing that it's a new discovery.
Mr. Moore?
The paperwork that we got, the site plan that we received when the septic application was brought forward, did not indicate any sort of part two or right of way or anything other than the subject property and the septic was encased wholly in that property, which is all that we're looking for. The setbacks were met according to the site plan, and I believe that they are, except that they're just sitting on the right of way.
Right.
As far as a solution to it, it's something that reaching out to the adjacent property owner, I think there's some solution that could be met, but that's a discussion that you guys would have to have separate.
Right. And if I'm correct, is that a private road that runs through? Because there is a road there that runs, I guess, through the neighboring property when it's supposed to be running through Clement's property.
Correct. Yeah, it
Okay.
is a private road, and yes, it is supposed to be actually located on the right of way. So there's a few issues there
Right.
that need to be resolved.
Just this. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that's it. So next steps for us, we have to do some legwork at our end then to speak to the neighbors and see what the solutions are. Okay.
So when we can work with them on trying to find a solution, or do you believe there is a solution without having to relocate the septic system?
Potentially, but that'll be something that they'll have to explore with the adjacent property owner, because it's all private interest. It's not a township controlled land there. So
Yeah, we'd have to have that neighbor to agree to the moving the road allowance to their property. Okay.
potentially, yes. Yeah.
Do members of the committee have any questions for the applicant? Go ahead, Member Sharp.
I'm just curious, when I went and saw your location, it's a beautiful spot on the river. It is awfully close to the waterfront where you are now. And I'm just curious and I can see where your stakes are, where your addition is going to go back to. Typically, these applications are for variances that are minor in nature, and going to the size of the place that you want, in my estimation, just doesn't seem very minor. Did you look at where your circular driveway comes around and there is a greater setback from the water, about just being able to move it back a little bit further so it's not so close to?
Okay, just to clarify, I'm the construction manager for the property, so I'm working on behalf of the client.
Okay,
So there's two parts to this. We're the proposed construction management company. The clients purchased the material package from True North Log Home, so they've already purchased that said house and had discussions on where that house location was. So we're working on their proposal, what their wish is for that location of the house. When we had went to the site, we knew that we were going to be into a variance application. We proposed that, to save the trees that are behind the house. And we measured it out so that if we kept the same footprint and just moved back, we'd be able to keep the trees that are behind and still not disturb by moving that septic bed again. So my understanding is that on our end, we haven't looked at relocating the home because it'd be a matter of redesigning the home at that point, to kind of suit the property, I guess, to allow us to have more setback. But we were looking at preserving those trees and not having to relocate the septic to accommodate that space.
Okay.
Any other questions for the, just before I go any further, have you provided your name on the
Yeah, on the sheet.
sheet?
Yep.
Yeah, good, thanks. So any other questions or comments for the representative of the applicant? Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak to the application? Mr. Bishop, okay, if you'd like to come forward.
Hear you, Chair. Thanks for allowing me to speak as well. I'm the owner in behind, of course, as you probably know, because we just got the subdivision registered here about 6 or 8 weeks ago. I'm going to give you a little bit of a history. Hopefully have a little bit of time to listen, but these lots were created in 1991. At the same time, the plan of subdivision actually got draft approval. When these were created, obviously it needed a right of way, and that's why the private right of way is there. The intent at the time, because the documents are on title, I have actually done the search. The owners of the next 2 lots to the north of Rob, actually, it's no good anymore because it's run out of time, but there was an agreement there for them to actually go off the new township road directly with their driveways. And this whole right of way would have disappeared. And that was the intent back then. Those owners have moved on, long gone. You know, there's nothing in that agreement anymore other than the intent of the original developer, which is now me, and what had transpired from that perspective. So there are a couple of solutions potentially to look at trying to resolve the issue. That's one of them. Both of those properties to the north have direct access on our new township road, and they can go there, and that we could alleviate the right of way. I've always wondered why the 2 owners to the north just kind of seem to drive in. They only come in the summer. They don't come in the wintertime. They do seasonal only, and they don't do any maintenance. They don't help with plowing, whatever. Now I know why. I'm seeing these agreements, and now that's why that road just happened to land up where it was. Even in the survey that the surveyor did just recently, and I'm a surveyor, by the way, if they don't know, retired surveyor. So when I looked at the survey, it doesn't even show the extension of the road that goes to the next 2 people because it was covered by snow when the surveyor was in there. Very obvious in that sense. The other issue we generally always have in these situations too is, and for the last 25 years, we've had title insurance instead of getting a surveyor out to see what's going on, right? So you get presented with a sketch as you would have for a septic permit, which it appears as though it was about 2 owners ago. And there it is. What does Rob get? He goes and buys the lot, title insurance. Oh, we're all covered. Guess what? He has no idea that this septic is on the right of way. My initial thought was, why don't we just move the right of way? Well, no, he probably needs the property worse than I need to move the right of way. Maybe it needs to be a further discussion with the people to the north actually, and see whether they'll come off the other road and we can alleviate the right of way altogether. So I think there's some discussions that can happen. Title insurance is put there for a reason. He now has a claim. Rob has a claim to go back to title insurance and say, here's my problem. It wasn't, nobody knew. I mean, you didn't even know it was sitting there on a right of way. So I've been involved in those, of course, from the survey side, about 6 a year, where the title insurance will pay for some of this stuff. I'm all for the development, actually. As a former member of the OLT, I'd be approving this one. I think it's great. It's in the same location. It literally comes back from where the building starts. It's tucked in the corner. It doesn't affect visibility whatsoever from the owner behind, which is me. I like that design. I like everything from a planning perspective. No issue whatsoever. It's a small building. You got to do something with it. And they've done a good job of keeping in the footprint and simply coming back and going up. So no issues there at all. Land titles came in 2010, and during that time, one of the previous owners then gravelled the whole road. Well, again, adverse possession's not there anymore. I could have stopped them, but again, I knew sooner or later something would come up, that somebody would need something, and here we are today. I certainly agree with the deferral for a month, but I'm also not opposed to ultimately, so that they can move forward, maybe in a subsequent meeting, that there's just a condition there to say they will either move the septic or prove it's resolved, right? Because it truly is a private issue in one sense, but it is not just affecting me, it affects the two neighbors to the north as well, because it sits right on their access to go up through to feed those lots. So again, all for the approval of the application and what Rob's trying to do. It's just a matter of trying to get maybe the four of us together in there and deciding what we can possibly do to maybe alleviate the right of way altogether, or what do we have to do to, and we all know it. If you want to move the road back, well, they got to purchase lands then, recreate the right of way, to get rid of the right of way. I can tell you right now, that's not a cheap process either. So it's all costs, and maybe it does come down to getting the title insurance involved on both fronts, because we have two owners in there. Rob bought in 21, and so did the people, Robert and Eva up on 1049 Looking Glass Lane bought in 21. They would have title insurance as well. I'm not sure in 2006 when Barb and Greg bought, I just don't know. They've been there the longest. They've been there before I bought in 17. So again, all for the severance, or sorry, for the minor variance. It's just to resolve some issues around the septic.
Are there any questions for Mr. Bishop? Well, it would appear obvious that there needs to be a deferral to resolve some of these issues. And had you made a specific time allotment for it, or just defer it?
I just recommending deferring until a resolution had been met. So, if some sort of arrangements met and brought forward to us, then we can certainly bring it back to the committee for consideration at that time.
Okay. Christine, go ahead.
Yeah, just one question. That's why I wanted to wait till the end, Sean. And it's just for my knowledge. When there's a situation like this where there is a right of way in our bylaws, is there a setback that we have from a right of way, or because it's private, it's kind of a gray area?
So there's no setback from the right of way boundary itself, but you cannot construct anything within the boundaries of the right of way.
Okay, but no setback as we would normally have if it was just a regular lot line.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And just maybe to follow up on that, I looked at that because your setback from your rear lot line, right? In other words, you can literally build on the right of way, but you have to meet your rear lot line setback, and that right of way is 32.81 feet wide, which I have to assume is 10 meters in the day, right? They just did the conversion in their head, so it would have met setback in the rear, I believe, as well. Even if they came right to the right of way. Yeah.
Any other questions from the committee for any of the parties involved? Well, I think we can agree that Sean's recommendation is appropriate at this time. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Mr. McLaren. Councillor Richards.
Moved by Fergus McLaren, seconded by Sabrina Richards. Be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby defers minor variance application HMV 01225 pending a resolution to the encroachment of the septic system on the existing right of way to the satisfaction of the township.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, everyone. Hopefully a reasonable solution can be found. If there's no other business, have we got a date set for our next meeting?
Yes, we actually passed a calendar and I'll forward that to you.
Okay,
So yeah,
Right on.
it's it should be the last Friday of May, I believe.
okay, if that's the last bit of business, then can I have a motion to adjourn? Member Richards and Member Sharp.
Moved by Sabrina Richards, second by Christine Sharp. Be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment hereby adjourns its regular meeting at 1:19 PM.
All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, everyone.